Hi, I'm Mia Parrish, and welcome to Devils in the Details, where we come together in our Zoom format to take a deeper look at topics that you're hearing about from the university and research and interesting things that might be happening around Arizona State. And today I have Dr. Brian Gerber and Dr. Melanie Gall, who are co-directors of Arizona State's Center for Emergency Management and Homeland Security. And so the Center for Emergency Management and Homeland Security does more than COVID. How did the dashboard come to be in the first place?
A few years ago, we worked with the Florida volunteer organizations active in disasters in response for Hurricane Michael and also the year prior. And that's when we deployed and really tested this dashboard for the first time and used it as a tool to connect organizations, see who does what, where, and what services do people offer, who do I need to call, what's their phone number. So It really helped connect organizations in Florida post hurricane.
Right, and so then you realized you had this tool that could help connect people and built one for the COVID crisis.
And we've shared this tool with the Arizona volunteer organizations active in disaster. So we had a regular meeting and they invited us and we showed them what we did. So they were kind of mentally primed that something could be developed and this might be an opportunity for them to use it and leverage it.
So you took that expertise and then you spread that across the state. That's great. So what does it look like? Can you share that? I just would love to see how it works.
All right, let me share with you. So it's web-based. So there's a URL, a link that everyone actually can access. It's not access restricted. And you essentially land at a website that has different components to it. For instance, there's a map of Arizona where you see a flurry of dots, for instance, that show you where the food banks are and food pantries and other volunteer organizations. And it has these two parts to it where on one side of the webpage, you see what services are offered. So for instance, where can I go to get food, or where can I get counseling? Who do I need to call? And on the other half of the page, you see what kind of needs do these organizations have? Do they need food donations? Do they need volunteers? So it's essentially like a status report as of now. What do we offer in services and what kind of needs do these organizations have?
That's fantastic. And who's helping with that?
So it's myself late at night starting developing it. And then of course we need student support because you can't maintain this kind of information just by yourself. So we have students from our center that listen to the weekly calls the Arizona volunteer organizations have and take notes and actually go in and log this information for the organization so they don't have to go in there and type in the information manually. And then we have students from geography who help actually design and code the dashboard.
So how did the Emergency Corps come to be at ASU? Like, where did it come from? Did you have a bunch of students who said, I really want to volunteer and know more about this, or?
Yeah, I'll jump in and answer, and Mel can add to it. But really, so we have the Center for Emergency Management Homeland Security is a research center. We do a lot of applied work with government at all levels, but also non-governmental organizations as we've been discussing. And we've got students that work in the center from our own experience in working with students. We thought it would be good to formalize those kind of external partnerships that we have going on in the community as a routine matter in any event. So putting a formal structure to it is really what caused its development.
I think what's also important is that we really want to be a partner to the community and not just solely engage in education and research. That's great, we need that. But I think to be a true partner for these volunteer organizations, especially here in the Valley, you also need to marshal your own resources. And students are a phenomenal asset. So it's great for these organizations to scale up if they have a need by pulling these students in, even if it's just one or two, and for the students at the same time to gain experience. It's just a win-win for everybody around.
Did you have somebody call and say, hey, can you help us out? Or did you raise a hand and volunteer some people to help with this? How does that work?
So the funny thing is, in pre-COVID times, and I think it was truly the general meeting, there's a meeting once a month of these volunteer organizations. In that meeting, before all this madness broke out, we sort of officially launched and shared and said, we have this initiative. We've shared it with our partners before, but never really said, okay, here's where you can go, here's a flyer, here's our contact information. But in the meeting before is when we said, listen, if you need resources, reach out, let us know. And we remind our partners regularly during these weekly meetings now that we have every Friday, where sort of every organization reports on their current status, needs, and services, where we say, hey, you need students, you need us to enter information, reach out. One of the thoughts behind establishing this core was providing students who don't necessarily study emergency management and homeland security an avenue and a window into emergency management and disaster response. You know, you can have a background in computer science or in nursing, in sociology, social work. There is a way for everybody to contribute, and through the core, everybody has this opportunity where we try to connect organizations and student volunteers.
Mm-hmm. How do you decide you're going to be into responding to disasters? I mean, do you just like, you grew up interested in disasters or emergency planning? How did you get involved with it?
I would say for the majority of people, it's some sort of personal experience.
Mm-hmm.
So they have personally experienced a disaster when they, you know, some of them even when they were little kids, or they went somewhere and visited a country, a place, and were exposed to a disaster, experienced a disaster. Some people are weather geeks. They get just interested in the hurricanes or tornadoes of the world. And some people come from a first responder background, fire, police, and there's a natural connection to emergency management. So very often people it's really very much a personal interest in that field, a personal experience that exposed people to this area.
And then you come around to saying, okay, I'm going to be involved with emergency management, homeland security, and a disaster means it could come up at any time. What's the weirdest thing you've seen as an emergency management responder? You have to be really planful and really flexible. So
I would say that global pandemics of this scale happen about once a century. So our current circumstances, it's a little bit unusual. And I say that jokingly, but it's actually true. I think one of the things that the COVID-19 pandemic illustrates is how difficult and challenging these issues are. It really matters how communities and nations and the international system overall, how they invest in preparedness and in effective risk management and risk mitigation, which again may or may not sound exciting, but it's profoundly important to the health and safety and resilience capacity of any community. Mm-hmm. So I think the good thing about if there is a silver lining from this kind of pandemic, it's that it really puts into clear relief the importance of these kind of issues. So it's disasters should not be the purview of just people that are first responders or weather geeks, as Melanie said, but really it's important for everybody to have a basic understanding of these kind of issues. And really, it's important that we translate good practice into these good ideas about what is effective practice into good public policy.
Most people probably don't know that ASU has a center like this. And thank you for joining us today, both of you, Melanie and Brian, Dr. Gall, Dr. Gerber, for taking the time to join us on Devils in the Details.
Thank you. Appreciate you having us.
Thank you. You're welcome.